Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Common Censored Live, where we get so live you wouldn't even believe it. Oh my God, do we get live? I'm here with Eleanor Goldfield.
Hello.
And this is the show where we talk censored stories and something.
And common ground movements to fight and build.
Damn, and sometimes
and then I say sometimes other shit, but since I stole your line, I feel like we've started off.
I was gonna say sometimes other shit.
Completely unraveled.
I was gonna say and sometimes other shit. Thanks for joining us. Please take a second to share this out, to hit the subscribe button, and then you got to hit a bell if you want them to tell you about it, because apparently the subscribe button means nothing now. Because why would it? Why would hitting subscribe mean you subscribing? Anyway, per usual. Well, let me tell you some of the topics we're gonna get into.
Did you go live on Rockfin?
I of course. Doing it right now.
I'm basically just here to remind him to go live on Rockfin. You're welcome.
That's not true. Rockfin. You also do a lot of the speaking about the topics. So a couple of topics we're going to be hitting on is a Supreme Court decision that just basically said that prisoners who got fucked in their court proceedings cannot bring their cases to the Supreme Court. We're going to get into new documents, show that our government has all of the power if they want to use it, meaning to take away all of our freedoms, etc. And maybe if we have time, we'll get into mind-blowing civilizations that have just been discovered, because I know that's not a political topic, but I like to keep things unique and different and stray from the huge. All right, so welcome, everybody. What I was going to say is, per usual, we will do the first 15 minutes on all of these various streaming platforms, wherever you're joining us. Thanks for doing that. Please share this on whatever platform you're on. After 15 to 20 minutes, we will cut off the streams to all except rumble.com/Lee Camp, where they don't censor me and I'm not suppressed. So rumble.com/Lee Camp. Go over there. It's free to join up and watch this video. It's free to comment over there. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. So I hope you will join us over there. But even if you don't make the shift, enjoy these first 15, 20 minutes with us. And thanks for being here. So let's get into the, and by the way, I know a lot of people want to talk about the shooting, which we have talked about. I've talked about on my other live streams. So you're welcome to go over and hear all of my thoughts on that at leecamp.net if you want to hear about that. But we're going to hit on some other topics that are equally, if not more important. So, yeah, would you like to lead us into this first one?
Sure, come along. Story time. No. So a recent Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court's really butt scooting its way to all-out fascism. Of course, people might be familiar with the recent leak of a decision, of a draft that would basically overturn Roe v. Wade. I have recently just recorded an episode of the Project Censored radio show that will be covering all of that and talking to an expert in reproductive health care. So that's coming out soon on Project Censored Radio. So look for that. But this is another Supreme Court snafu. Basically,
that's putting it lightly. How about pieces of shit? But snafu.
Well, I mean, it basically just stands for situation normal all fucked up, and that's really what the Supreme Court is, right? It's all fucked up.
True, I guess.
It's normally all fucked up.
If we really want to dig into it, I guess I was getting to the idea that people use snafu to mean it was a mistake. This is not a mistake. This is just them being pieces of shit.
But yeah. Then I've been using that wrong the entire time. See, this is what happens when you like grow up with intellectual, like overly intellectual parents, one of whom is not a native English speaker, and then you hear the word snafu and you take it very literally. Anywho.
Right. Yeah. You have these tiny, you know what? You have a unique ability to.
FYI, I don't think you can be overly
analyze. You have a unique ability to analyze American culture because you saw both growing up, partially Swedish, partially American. But you also have these bizarre tiny gaps in your cultural knowledge. And so maybe that's one of them.
You know, that's the first time you've ever called them tiny. Because usually when I tell you that there's a gap in my cultural understanding, you lose your damn mind and you're like, holy shit, you've never heard of Tetris. And
okay. Folks, would you not, if you met someone today and you're like, you never heard of Tetris? And then they go, I don't play video games. You're like, you don't have to play video games. You just have to be a person. And then Tetris just is thrust upon you.
It was not thrust upon me. I never had a Me Too moment with Tetris.
You just made my point. All right, can we move on?
Yes, I would love to move on. Tetris Nazi. Okay, so the Supreme Court has recently gutted a lifeline for prisoners who claim wrongful convictions. And I mean, that headline, you're on the wrong. Oh no, you're just looking at a different one. Okay.
Just a different headline. Yeah.
So basically that headline really says all you need to know about both the Supreme Court and our so-called justice system. So there's the chain of command. Folks might be might be aware of that phrase, or the proper channels. You hear that a lot in whistleblower case as well. It didn't go through the proper channels. If that had happened, we would have absolutely taken it into consideration that we have the largest spy network that's ever existed. But these proper channels exist to basically bat down justice and bat down people's ability to, to advocate for themselves or to advocate for other people in the case of whistleblowers. But recently, this was just last week, I believe. The Supreme Court, and I'm quoting right now from The Guardian, which, but on this story, they are covering this properly.
Fun fact I always like to point out is The Guardian was kind of captured about 2014. So you can find articles that are excellent from The Guardian if you go like 2014 and back. And often kind of like mind-blowing, like, wow, this was in a legit mainstream media outlet. Right. And then you're like, oh, it was pre-capture.
Yeah. So this is post-capture, but kind of like with some other outlets, there are several outlets that do this. Common Dreams is one as well, where they'll like have some really brilliant articles, and then a lot of their shit you just read and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Common Dreams, we feature them a lot on radindiemedia.com. Part of the reasoning for that is it has to do with actually whether it's a good outlet, but also how often they put stuff out. And Common Dreams puts out tons more articles than most of our favorite outlets. So that's part of it. But they will occasionally one, and it is a bit of a bot that grabs these articles and puts them on Rad Indie Media from legit outlets. But occasionally one will pop up there where it's like, why Russiagate's ramifications are still rippling. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, you guys believe Russiagate? But anyway.
Bit of a tangent. Yeah. However, basically.
Media literacy.
Yes, an important issue. So basically, this decision by the U.S. Supreme Court gutted constitutional protections that provided a federal lifeline to innocent prisoners facing prolonged incarceration or even execution following wrongful convictions stemming from poor legal counsel given to them by the states. So that paragraph too is really indicative of the situation. So these are people that have had wrongful convictions, and there's evidence to suggest that. There's plenty of evidence to back that up. And the states gave them really shitty legal counsel, and they are on death row, or at the very least in prison for life, or really any amount of time is absurd, considering that it's a wrongful conviction. And the Supreme Court was like, but not our problem, and we want nothing to do with it. We know that you're innocent, but fuck you. Not our problem. I hope you rot and die in prison.
I mean, it's so fucking insane, because isn't that kind of part of the entire point of the Supreme Court is like, you are correct, the system is wrong, and we have appealed it all the way to the final court, to the big court, to the top court, because it is such a fucked up decision. That's how we ended up there. I mean, this is ostensibly, obviously, it's a rigged system, and this is not how it works most of the time, but that's the idea. And now this is the Supreme Court saying, no, even if you've been completely railroaded, you're innocent, you're in prison, or you're facing capital punishment. I don't know if this also rules those out, but it's like, we're not going to deal with it. It's amazing.
And Clarence Thomas, who wrote...
Good guy. A lot of people don't know this. He helps a lot of immigrants. He goes down to the border and he'll just give them his coat off his back. Sometimes he'll wear 4 coats to the border, even though it's 112 degrees, and he'll give each coat away as he's there. I made all that up.
Because he is an asshole. He's a penis wrinkle and a horrible human being. So basically, this dick of a human being basically wrote that this infringes on states' rights. This suggestion that federal courts would be allowed to overwrite the state's, quote, core power to enforce criminal law. So basically, he's saying that if you are represented in court by a state legal representative, that's just your fucking lot. And if that person does not represent you well and it's clear that you're innocent, but you end up in jail anyway, the federal government can't do anything about it because that would infringe on states' rights. Wow.
I love that the states' rights argument is always bizarre because it's like, it's states' rights when they feel like they want to make it state rights. And it's not state rights when they feel like they don't want to make it states' rights. And half the time they're like, oh yeah, the states have a right to abuse people or discriminate against people or do all these god awful things. But then they'll be like, oh, but the states don't have a right to guarantee clean water to their people, or to tell a corporation that they like have to serve the city. This used to be the way corporations work. You had to have a charter in a city, and if you didn't serve that city, they could revoke your charter. Yeah. So you couldn't just pollute the fuck out of the place because they'd revoke the charter. So Supreme Court will defend their right of a corporation to abuse cities and say, oh no, that's not states' rights, that's federal. I mean, it's just this whole state rights argument is just nonsense.
And in this case that the Supreme Court ruled on, the state argued that the condemned men should not be allowed to present new evidence to a federal judge that they had failed to do so previously in court. However, this is kind of the point here. Lawyers then for the condemned men pointed out that they had only failed to present the evidence in state court because the legal counsel they had been assigned by the state was shitty. So it's like, yes, I didn't bring this up in court because my fucking counsel is incompetent. And then the argument was, well, if you didn't bring it up in the state court, then you can't bring it up in the federal court, which is really fucking ridiculous, because this also suggests that if new evidence comes to light, then it shouldn't be, this is kind of like a parallel argument. Let's say that you were convicted of a crime before DNA analysis was available, and let's say that the DNA analysis now shows that it wasn't your blood or it wasn't your semen or whatever the hell. And
listen, I was having a weird weekend. Okay, yes, it was my blood and semen, but it was a strange weekend.
But and then they're like, well, I'm sorry, but that ship sailed and you weren't on it, so we can't retry this case because this new evidence wasn't presented initially. And it's like, but this is the whole point.
That's the whole point of the Supreme Court.
Right, is to bring this shit up later when new shit comes to light, or when it's clear, when it becomes clear that your legal counsel wasn't doing their job. This is what the fucking Supreme Court exists for. It exists to override shitty decisions of lower courts, in theory, but it really does that. So basically, this is a huge blow, and the Innocence Project and a lot of other groups that work to abolish the death penalty and advocate for prisoners and their human rights have come out and said, this is catastrophic, because this was one of the basic lifelines that people relied on, because there are so many state courts, because again, courts are so slammed. There's such a backlog that they want to run through this shit really fast. So there's so many stories. There's so many, instances of people getting shitty legal counsel. They're just like, let's move this through. Yeah, he's guilty. Who gives a shit? I'm not going to present this because it'd take too much and I got to get on my lunch break. There's so much evidence of this because of the backlog. And also because I think people don't really give a shit that much. But also because of this backlog, you're just seeing more and more people ending up in jail just because it's easier to shove them into prison and let them rot in there than actually deal with the facts at hand and properly give them their quote unquote day in court.
And a couple of fun facts we should just throw in here, which I try to mention every chance we get, but this is, not we don't want to have the same discussion over and over again. So I'll just throw them out real quick. Supreme Court, completely unelected body, basically designed to cement the power and the privilege of the ruling elite, of the oligarchy. They in order to get on the list of people that could become Supreme Court justices, you had to prove through your career that you would do everything, that you would bend over backward for the oligarchy, for the ruling elite, for the corporate class. Once you've done that, then maybe you get on the short list that could get on the Supreme Court. Okay, that's one thing you need to know. The other thing, because you just mentioned rotting in jail, the U.S. of A. is the largest prison state on the planet, both per number and per capita. We have the largest number of prisoners. We have the largest number, per 100,000. We spend the most on prisoners. We have the largest prison state in the world, and we're the land of the free. So let that sink in.
Yeah, absolutely. And this also, I'm curious, where are all the constitutionalists on this one? Because the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution guarantees criminal defendants have the right to effective legal counsel. And as Justice Sotomayor pointed out, this is, quote, an empty guarantee. And I think that, this is also one of those moments where it's like, yeah, where the fuck are all those people that, jack off while reading the Constitution? Shouldn't they be really concerned about this? But of course, no, because the Constitution doesn't exist to protect the majority. It exists to protect people in power and, white men predominantly. So, yeah, so this is a huge blow to the basic human rights of prisoners, and it basically gives no lifeline to people who have been wrongfully convicted and need to take their cases further. So,
folks, we have a bunch of stories left to talk about. We're about to talk about new documents, newly revealed documents show the power of the presidency if the president wanted to use it. And it shows that basically the U.S. government has all of the power, can take away all of your freedoms, all of your privacy. So we're going to get into the details of that in just a minute. But per usual, we're going over to rumble.com/LeeCamp. Many of you are watching on Facebook or on YouTube or on Rockfin. All of those will be cut off in a minute. However, the Rumble stream is free to watch. So we're not putting anything behind a paywall. Just go to rumble.com/LeeCamp. Join us over there. You can still comment. We'd still love to see your comments. And yeah, so we'd love for you to go over there. Also, for those of you that aren't going to make the jump, as they say, please still support our stuff. We have a podcast called Common Censored, which you can listen to on most of the podcast platforms. I am the most censored comedian in America. All of my back videos banned globally. So I would love for you to support my stuff at LeeCamp.net. You can become a member over there for as little as $5 a month. And hopefully you feel it's worth it. So go check it out, LeeCamp.net. But now we hope to see you over at rumble.com/LeeCamp. Thanks a lot. And do you have something that you could do right now to fill the time?
Is this not what you were talking